meeting to order for April 4th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Better give Janet a chance to get back there.
Oh, okay. We'll wait for the camera to come on. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call will show that all commissioners are present here today. The first item we have, commissioners, is the approval of the agenda. Looking at the agenda, is there any changes that you would like to make as commissioners?
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Today we have a special presentation. I believe it's with our animal partners. Do we have somebody who wants to speak about that?
I think there's really two things we're doing here. It's National Therapy Animal Day, and so you have a proclamation that recognizes all those pets that do good work with people in difficult situations, but we have our own. So that's why we wanted the county attorney here, and I'll let you introduce everybody else.
This is Kelly Troutman, one of our paralegal victim witness coordinators in my office, and she is the handler for our facility dog, Nova. You guys want to go around front so that they can see her. This is a full-grown golden retriever. We laughingly called her apartment size when she first came through because she's 40-some pounds. We've had Nova now for 4 years. She's one of only 2 court facility dogs in the state of Minnesota. Her sister actually serves in the Ramsey County Attorney's Office. But we want to give you a little bit of background on her. She's the first one that's actually going to court and going to be allowed in court. She went through 2.5 years of training, and it's not exactly a therapy dog. She's trained where you would have someone that bonds specifically with one person. She is trained to bond with whoever we ask her to bond with. She's worked with over 100 victims and witnesses in jury trials so far since she's been in the office. In 2009, Kelly and Nova went through a week-long intensive training together after she had received 2.5 years of prior training up to that, and she's been meeting with victims ever since, so October of 2019. Those 100 victims that she works with have been persons who have experienced sexual assault, domestic violence. She's worked with attempted murder victims, and she's worked with sex trafficking victims. Sometimes those persons are adults, sometimes those people are kids. But her job is to meet them literally where they are, and if through interacting with her, they can get through testifying and they can get through the criminal justice system process with less stress, that's what she's for. And we actually do have a motion pending right now in front of our judges to, for the first time in the state of Minnesota, allow her to be present during a jury trial while testimony is taken. Right now, she will be with the witnesses who have requested her help.
It's
right
a she?
before they go on the stand. Yep.
It's a she?
Yep. Nova's a she.
God.
She'll be with them right before they go up on the witness stand, but has to stay out of the courtroom. Then as soon as they're done, she'll be there. Or if they have to take a break during testimony because it's just too much for what's going on, she is the person, or she's a dog, but she is the comfort that they have. But we did go through a 3.5-hour hearing. Is that what it was? We had to, again, fully contested litigation. Everyone in the courtroom has to know. Yeah, go ahead and bring her out so they can see her. That she is there, that she is has to be completely under control. She sat through the 3.5-hour hearing without a break, and the judge made a really nice record that no one knew she was there. Because we do have to be careful about how the jury perceives that, how they see that. She would be available to any person in the courtroom, not just the prosecution witnesses as far as that goes. The point is being able to get people in a state that they're calm enough to be able to tell what's happened to them and be able to just get through the experience. So we are awaiting the judge's ruling, and if that happens, that will be in a first-degree criminal sexual conduct, family sex abuse case that she would actually be lying at the feet of the witness where she won't be visible by the jury. We do have to tell the jury she's there in case she starts snoring or snorts, or she will not start barking and running around. It's not in her. It's not in her training. And the amount of testing that Kelly has had to go through with her to show that she can handle the situation. She has to be able to get in an elevator with people. She can't just walk up to you and say hi. We would have her come up and introduce herself to all of you, but candidly, she's got some pretty nasty witness meetings ahead of her today. And just like all of you would be at the end of a workday when you've dealt with things like that, it will literally exhaust her. So we literally keep in mind how much energy she has and how much emotional support she can provide in a day, because it also exhausts her. But she has been with us, as I say, since 2019. She'll be 6 now this month. It amazes me that she's already that old. But this is Nova. Questions?
Yeah, where does the dog live? It's not a smart comment, but, you know, it goes home at night, right?
Yep, she lives with Kelly. We
Okay.
do have a couple backup handlers that if she's in court, that she can be left with people in the office. But for the most part, she's with Kelly. And that means that Kelly gets assigned to all of those type of cases in which her assistance would be helpful. So Kelly is also a rock star in what she is able to do for our office and the people that she works with every day. She lives with Kelly and her family.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly, Janelle, when you bring children in the courtroom, they have difficult times, oftentimes express themselves. And, excuse me, having a therapy dog there, you know, to allow them to relax, or other witnesses that have been traumatized, it would make a difference if they feel some bit more relaxed and comforted that, you know, they can speak. It's a great idea, hopefully working well.
Learned this through the National District Attorneys Association. 21 other states already have this and have gone through the full litigation process, which will go all the way up to the Supreme Court, I'm sure eventually, if Judge Morley allows her to be there, as to what her role is, and probably more importantly, what her role is not. But the point being to just allow witnesses to be able to testify and talk about what happened.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the proclamation, and do want to thank you all. I mean, obviously the court pieces are important, as well as helping victims feel comfortable enough to talk to the attorneys beforehand. And that's been, I know, a very important piece of this. So thank you, Kelly, thank you.
And I could look for a second on that?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Nice gives me a second on that. And I certainly want to thank our two-legged friends that help out here in the county. And I've done that many times in this class,
Yes.
but this is the first time I'm thanking our four-legged friends for the work that they do. So it's greatly appreciated. And likewise with this proclamation about those folks that support the therapy animals and those that are using the therapy animals, we obviously are encouraged by the help that they provide. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you for your support of this. When we first started bringing her around in the process of choosing which animal will be placed with us, everybody had to be on board. So thank you very much. Thank you to admin and HR as well for the challenges that could have existed that just didn't. People decided it was a good idea. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, I'll take the vote on the proclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I didn't expect to hear anyone. Motion passes. Now let me read the proclamation. There are thousands of pet partner therapy animal teams serving in the communities across the United States. Whereas Pet Partners has designated April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day, whereas Pet Partners therapy animal teams played an essential role in improving human health and well-being through the human-animal bond, whereas Pet Partners therapy animal teams makes millions of visitors per year in settling such places as hospitals, nursing homes, schools, and hospice, whereas Pet Partner therapy animal teams interact with a variety of people in our community, including veterans, seniors, patients, students facing literacy challenges, and those approaching the end of their life, whereas these exceptional therapy animals who partner with human companions, bringing comfort and healing to those in need. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Stearns County Board hereby proclaims April 30th, 2023 as National Therapy Animal Day. We really appreciate that. This proclamation is signed by Joseph Emil Persky, that's me, and approved on the 4th of April, 2023.
Yep, you've gone to the dog.
Okay, well, thank you much. We'll move on to the next agenda item, consent agenda. Commissioners, we have on the consent agenda items 1 through 18, quite a large list. With that, I'll ask, before we move that forward, are there any items that commissioners would like to pull for discussion?
Mr. Chair, can I maybe just add, there is one in our packet too for the Albany Sportsman's Club.
Okay. And that is number 19? Okay.
Yeah, just want to make sure it's added.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that.
I think it would actually, Mr. Chairman, be added to number 7 as an E, or not, I guess wherever Mike wants to put it.
Yeah, I think we usually just add them to the end. And Mr. Chair, could we please pull number 14 just for,
You'd like to pull number 14 for discussion?
Yep.
Okay. Are there others that individuals would like to pull?
Mr. Chair, with that, I'll move the consent agenda with the exception of, what was it, number 14?
And the addition of 19.
And the addition of 19.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 19 with the exception of 14. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Commissioner Clark, you had pulled number 14.
yes, I pulled number 14. We obviously all have gotten some communication. This is an item that the Planning Commission has recommended for us to deny. It was on a split vote, our common practice, and just for procedure for process is to, in these kinds of situations, to put them on for a public hearing. If we choose to, like in every other time we've done that, which has, again, been our practice, that is not for somebody to think that we might have a different conclusion. My understanding is there also might be some additional information, but I don't know if we need any at this time. So I would move that we set that for a public hearing.
Okay, I've got a motion to set a public hearing for item number 14. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'll second it for just discussion purposes here.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second for item number 14. So we can go ahead and open the discussion.
Why?
Again, it's our process. That's what we usually do when there is a split
I
vote.
understand the process.
Yeah.
Why this?
Mostly because, this one? Because this is the Lensmeyer way of doing things. This particular one, it's in the same category as every other. There's 4, 2 against, excuse me. They made a motion to, wait, I have the right one on here? There was a motion made to approve the plat with additional conditions. It failed to get a second. Then they voted to deny it 4-2 with an
I
abstention.
remember now. Okay.
4-2 with an abstention. So going with the Lensmeyer approach to how we do public hearings, that's the reason why.
Okay. Well, if I think it's the way to do it, then by God, it's the way to do it.
I
I'm
guess
fixing my mic.
coming from the Planning Commission, I guess I'd just like to say the Planning Commission held a public hearing in November on this issue. And the conditions that they felt were pretty much unresolved as far as trying to move it forward. So they went ahead and put a postponement on that with the agreement of the folks bringing it to them. We had it in March. Very few changes were done, or if any changes were done on making suggestions to change it. On the motion, there was a motion to approve it, but it did die for lack of a second because the Planning Commission was very solid as a majority not to pass that proposal. So the denial did then pass 4-2, but there was one abstention. we have an interesting situation here, and I don't know how much you want to go into it, but we're trying to construct a new animal. And this new animal, what we call sheds, it doesn't appear to be sheds in an ag district. And that's what their big concern was. Because once you start putting a holding tank and you start putting a shower and you start putting a toilet and you start putting
Sounds like a living.
a kitchen into these facilities and you place them around the lake, they're no really different than the cabins that are around there that have a holding tank. And so we're trying to develop a whole different issue under the guise that it's a shed. And there are also a good number of environmental issues relating to that property that we've heard over the last decade, I believe, that are concerning as well. So the Planning Commission was very strongly in rejecting the plat and plan as it was proposed. And that's what we have in front of us.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I might not disagree with the end vote if it comes in front of us, but it wasn't a 6-0 vote. It wasn't a 6-1 vote or it was essentially a 4-2 abstention. So it was a pretty split one. And I thought, and maybe Ms. Berg can give us some more information, because it would at least help me maybe in terms of whether we should be going forward with the public hearing, besides the fact this is the kind of one that we do. Just given the way the Planning Commission's vote went, we would tend to put this on for public hearing. But I'm just wondering if Ms. Berg could give us some additional information about what is actually being proposed here versus what I think I share your concerns about where it could be going, if that's okay.
Okay. Yes, again, we don't necessarily have to open up testimony on this.
No, I'm wondering if she could clarify.
It's just a matter of clarification. I'll let the board go ahead if you've got questions for Ms. Berg as far as what you'd like to hear from her. Because again, this is just a matter of do we agree with the Planning Commission or not agree with the Planning Commission?
And again, Mr. Chair, because of the split in it, the question is really whether we're setting out for a public hearing or not. So that's why, and hopefully others in the audience get that they don't get to speak at this time. It really is just Ms. Berg clarifying.
Yes, and when you say a split, but the original motion to pass what was proposed, okay, did not. It was a failed.
Right.
Failed
That's kind of why I'd like to get some more information.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Berg?
Ms. Berg, can you just help in a short version, having read it but not having been at it, what actually is being asked at this point, and perhaps what happened with the motion that wasn't seconded, but then the vote down that was so split?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Commissioner Clark, as indicated in the board packet, it was a split vote. The Planning Commission had a public hearing 2 times, once in November and then once again in March. And typically, as outlined in your board agenda, if the board does not concur with the Planning Commission, then you would hold your own public hearing. So I'm not going to get into debating if you shouldn't or shouldn't. That's up to the 5 commissioners. But the plat has been heard by the Planning Commission. They've given their recommendation for the reasons stated. I can certainly go through them, but I think everyone's probably seen those. So really, your decision today is whether or not you're going to concur, or if you would like to hold your own public hearing. My suggestion would be for May 9th.
And Mr. Chair, I mean, if you don't want to get into it, my question really was, what were the reasons for the split in the vote? Were there any stated reasons?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Clark, Mr. Chair, I don't know I was at the meeting and I watched it twice after that. I'd have to probably go back and we'd almost have to look at who stated their reasons. The nay votes were based on what the findings that indicated were not consistent with the zoning ordinance, because the property is zoned ag, does not conform to the comprehensive plan due to the living goal ag residential use policy. The nay vote also said it's not compatible with the existing neighborhood, and you'll see a few sprinkled in there in terms of it does meet the technical aspects of the subdivision ordinance. Some people do believe that it met, that the plat would meet the requirements because of the subdivision agreement details. So
Mr. Chair, and Angie, just to clarify, was their disagreement with the finding of facts?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Clark, typically what happens at these meetings is they'll hear from the public, they'll hear from the applicant, they'll hear from staff, and then they'll go through their findings of fact. Each member will speak their part, and then they'll hold the vote. So not all of the nay votes or not all of the aye votes will necessarily speak on each one of the findings. So I'm not sure exactly how to answer your question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I just had heard that there was some disagreement about whether or not the findings of fact as it related to I just heard that there was some disagreement about the application as it related to the comp plan. But that's why I'm asking. Because
Okay, and
fine.
that's why I'll clarify, because the initial vote was to approve the proposal, and the proposal died for lack of a second. So then, procedurally wise, the thing is to come back with an affirmative vote. So that's why it ended like it did, but those results are what it is.
Mr. Chair, as you know, I mean, to me, this isn't even about the merits one way or the other of the situation. It really is about the split vote, and that we generally hear these. Having said that, I do not have strong opinions.
Okay. So your motion was to approve the second, another public hearing for us?
Just for us to have a public
For us to have one, and we have a second on that. So I'll go ahead, I'll call the question if we want to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I've talked to the people who are for it, talked to the people that are against it. Was on a planning commission in November, and obviously I may have misunderstood when we continued it in November. I understood that it was going to be continued, and some of the questions and concerns that were raised on the 17th of November, I think it was 17th, were going to be addressed or changed or something else brought back. And nothing's changed since November. Now they have the action in March. Nothing's going to change in our public hearing. It's going to be just matter the same information. So there's no new information. I do believe there's a resolution to this, but it's not what's before us. We have to act what's before us. And just sensing that nothing's going to change for our public hearing, I don't know that we need a third public hearing.
And Mr. Chair, the only thing I disagree with that is we actually had public hearings and situations that have prompted changes. That has happened. I was with you up until that part because I've seen it, seen it happen. I think it's very disappointing that nothing changed between those two public hearings.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Clark, that's why I have no hope that something's going to change for our public hearing. Had it only been the one public hearing. But again, it's a unfortunate, complicated issue. And at this point, I think the county might be best served, and the applicant and everyone involved, if something fresh came back addressing some of the things that everyone, if anybody's paying attention, they certainly need to know. Sometimes the messenger gets shot because you're repeating things that were said by all the planning. I did watch the Planning Commission meeting too, just because I was curious. I mean, things have been said and suggested, so there really should be no surprise. But again, saying that, then of course, sometimes you become the target.
Yeah,
So be it.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Bertram, I hear you there, that's for sure. Yeah, it's so playing former Commissioner Mergen for a second, a start over again would require a new request and then paying the dollars for that, correct? And then I know he would ask, and how long would they need to wait?
Is that the question, Angie?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Clark, in terms of waiting, it would be, I believe, a year. But I struggle to understand what that resubmittal would look like based on the Planning Commission's findings. We're concerned about the fact that sheds are allowed on agriculturally zoned property in this manner. So, you know, by reducing the plat by one lot, by reducing it by two lots, by changing the ordinance, I don't know what a do-over, what a reapplication would really do, but I might not be seeing what others are seeing.
So Mr. Chair, the question for probably Angie or just a comment. This parcel of land, like any parcel, could be rezoned, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Notch, the township has been very clear that they they will not rezone this. That request had been made and denied by the township.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
And this is something the township is supporting. Is that correct? Is my recollection correct?
Correct.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, the township could have a different opinion on the rezoning depending on this action. We, the county, could take care of the water issue finally after all these years. So there's a couple of things, and then just looking through the findings and listening to the Planning Commission members, again, there's other items that I think could be addressed.
So, Mr. Chair, this seems to come up and it's in the packet a lot. This standpipe, what is the purpose of this standpipe? Do you know, Angie?
Commissioner Notch, I wish Shelley was here because she was part of all this, but she's on
Okay.
leave. My understanding, and the Peters are in the back, there might be they'd probably be better suited to talk about this, but basically the county was involved in a standpipe being installed on this property to alleviate concerns with water quality.
So is
into
it
Big Fish
attached to
Lake.
a underground tile line then?
That is my understanding.
Because it
but-
would seem that makes sense because of, you know, you don't just plunk a standpipe in. I mean, I get it to hold back trash and stuff, but usually that means it's going into a tile somewhere and you're avoiding contaminants getting into it.
There's a long history in terms of long meaning lots of boxes of paper from the last 20, 30 years on this very issue. So I hesitate to really want to even spitball answers because I might be wrong on that. So if you would want an executive summary, I believe Shelley has one actually handy that she's given out before. And even the fact whether or not the standpipe relates to the plat is debatable. That's an opinion of the commissioners as well.
Okay. I think it's time we go ahead and move forward with the question, and the motion was to have a separate public hearing, which would then say that we are not going to accept the recommendation. So those in favor of the separate public hearing, say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chair, I almost removed my motion, but.
That's okay.
Yes,
I think we got the direction
And
we
Mr.
wanted.
Chair, I think in general, we do want to continue our path of doing hearings. But on these ones, it's always a little tricky to determine, and I really appreciate it. It sounds like there may be some options moving forward
Absolutely.
for this person.
And Commissioner Clark, on that point, I appreciate you, sticking up for what you think is the correct process.
Yeah.
We don't always agree on process. We don't always agree on decisions, but it's oftentimes good to know that we're not always the same, because I think people would find it difficult to think if we were all head bobbers up here.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommendation for item 19.
Okay. Got a motion for
Second.
pass item number 19, and we have a second from Commissioner Clark. Or you mean item 14?
Or 14.
Okay.
That's 14, okay.
14, yeah. Okay, item 14. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you for catching that.
I used to use a line on Commissioner Mergen that the only time we disagreed is when he was wrong.
Okay. We do not have any other items on the agenda, although, Mike, I'm going to just go back to you on administration. Do you have anything yourself that you'd like to?
I don't, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank God.
All right. We could have maybe used a few of those items from last meeting for today. For the public that doesn't know, we went from 9 o'clock till practically 3 o'clock last two Tuesdays ago.
Well, I actually tried to get some that we could put here from upcoming meetings, but
Oh.
none of that worked either.
Okay, all right. So then we're just down to issues by commissioner. I'll start down on.
Mr. Chairman, just before we do that, just to explain, when you say ask for Mike, what people probably don't know, the public doesn't know, March 27th, he gives us an administrative summary of issues, a whole host of issues. I think a lot of people, I know, have said to me, well, you really don't talk about a lot of things, or like the consent agenda. I said, what you need to understand is there's a lot of emails that are going back and forth, before the meeting to get information. I think I sent Randy at least 4 or 5 of the invoices asking what that was about or how that, in fact, we're meeting after this meeting for me to understand some of those payments, how that works. So there's a lot of questions that every commissioner asks of department heads and what have you. We just don't do it during the meeting, but we are asking questions, and Mike does update us regularly. So there's more information than just what you see here.
Absolutely, and Commissioner, also along with that is that if people go to the packet online, it's not just that they'll see the agenda item, but they'll see actually all the background information relating to that. So if they're curious about a purchase that we're making that's on the consent agenda, there's the request perhaps from the Sheriff's Department or from whoever it's coming, the Public Works or whatever, so that they can see why we're just bobbing our heads on a one-line item. So, yeah, good point.
Being the old historian, there's more access to more information of what the board's about now than there ever was by far in the past. It's just that some folks are used to the, show and tell process, I guess. And we do less of that now.
And to that point, Commissioners, is that looking at the consent agenda, it's available to our constituents early. If they have a question, they can always call us because they may have a concern that we're missing. That is a legitimate concern. And of course, when we have public participation, usually it's for better.
And Mr. Chair, I think we should be really proud of the ways in which we engage our citizenry, our residents, et cetera, whether it's through committees, whether it's through us, whether it's through the departments. Many of the things that come to us really have been, really vetted before they get here. That doesn't mean that we might not have a different take or there might be some other information, but particularly with the consent agenda, usually we only have a few things to talk about a bit more.
Yeah, and likewise, while we're live on camera, to make a point is that if the items are on the agenda, then we do not allow usually the public to speak. And so that if you do have a concern about something that's on the agenda or on the consent agenda, then that you talk to your commissioner, because that would give your opportunity for your opinion to be heard at the meeting. So
Unless it's a public hearing.
yeah, unless it's a public hearing and if you're nervous about speaking, maybe we can bring the dog in for you.
Oh, there you go.
Commissioner Lensmeyer, Mike's yours. Any other issues by Commissioner?
We are going to the dogs, yeah. Nothing.
Nothing? Commissioner Bertram?
Mr. Chairman, certainly we're all attending meetings. Again, things that some people don't understand about the process. We're all appointed to a host of meetings, and Commissioner Clark and I were at the AMC Leadership Summit last week, and of course all of our committee hearings that we do, and we all are doing that, and it's more than just this meeting. And on a personal note, I'd ask you to think of my dad, Clarence Bertram, who 5 years ago passed away. So it's his 5th anniversary of going to heaven. So proud to be able to say that and think of him today.
Thank you.
Yeah, considering his kids, I'm sure he went to heaven.
Thank you, Commissioner Lensmeyer.
Okay. Commissioner Notch?
Just a couple of things. In the county news issue back on March 13th, I don't know if you read Colorado County's, camping ordinance for these hip camps. And most of you aren't aware, but actually there is one by Melrose that just came up late last year. It's a unique concept, which I think maybe environmental services, we might have to maybe look at that as an option besides a formal campground. And the other thing, you guys all got the invite for the second phase of Highway 23? I'll let you guys talk to that.
Okay, yeah, it's coming up.
Yep, that's a kind of same thing, groundbreaking thing like last.
Commissioner
April
Bertram?
28th, Mr. Chairman, at Howick, 1:30 at the Township Hall. You won't get lost in Howick. There's 3 things there. So, welding
1:30?
shop, the lumber yard, and the town hall. 1:30. Yep. It'll be coffee
Hopefully
and
somebody will
cookies.
get that on our calendars.
You should have gotten an invite.
A calendar invite?
No,
As opposed to
email.
an
From the
email?
MnDOT. District 3 sent out an invite to everybody, so.
Great.
And maybe lastly, just because the Stearns County Fair Board members are here, is hopefully with what we approved today, you guys can move forward with that and hope to see if it happens this fall.
Two things. One, probably more importantly than the second, this is one of those rare confluences where major religious observances are coming together, whether it is Holy Week or if it's Passover, or I know that there's, it's Ramadan right now and there's some iftar celebrations, and, thinking about our commonalities as opposed to our differences and how important that our I'm speaking as myself, our faith can end up being. But also thinking the legislators are actually going to be home for a few days. I actually stopped suggesting that people should go and bug them during that time because they're exhausted right now. But let's remember between now and our next meeting that we're keeping the wealth of items that we're trying to get done actually done this year. So thank you for that.
I don't have much, other than I would like to have another proclamation to dismiss winter.
Oh, that would be
If we could from the county, but.
Mr. Chair, I actually once, Jeff, you might have, when I was in the Senate, I had a constituent ask if I'd put a bill in to say that winter had to be done by April 15th, no snow after April 15th. And I said, that's fine, but you got to speak to the higher power.
So, yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to get out and get the majority of those potholes filled, so limited damage will be to our vehicles and disturbance to our travel. As we mentioned, we're going to be doing the groundbreaking on Highway 23. We're also going to be having a Highway 23 annual meeting out in Mora on the 14th. Congressman Stauber is going to be speaking. So board members, if Pete Stauber from the district,
Yeah.
It's just
up
Nice
there,
work.
It's great.
he's going to be speaking there. So if board members want to attend, you're welcome to attend also on the 14th. So other than that, I have no more board business, and I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.